Walker Evans was offered a job by the US government in 1935, taking pictures of the Department of Agriculture. At the time, there was a depression in the United States after a fall of stock market. The farming industry suffered a 60% drop in crop prices, and the Great Depression took place across various nations. Put this into context, after a fall in the stock prices, the worldwide GDP fell by an estimated 15%, compared to the drop of 1% of GDP in the recession that we had in 2008. Evans was not so concerned about the political agenda of the Department of Agriculture. They wanted him to take pictures to show how they were helping these people that were living in poverty. He was interested in reporting the essence of the American life, from the simple ordinary to hillside churches. The pictures were intimate, and they give a realistic picture of the tragedy of the Great Depression. Obviously, this image here shows the graveyard and the houses overlooking the graveyard, which gives the narrative of, death is coming, or they were just waiting for death. In 1938, the Museum of Modern Art opened a collection of Evans's work, and this remained the benchmark against which all photographic black and white pictures are judged. He gave a major contribution to defining documentary photography and how they are of historical value. He worked with an 8x10 view camera and a 35mm camera. His images are so subtle, he was able to capture a narrative without people in it. A lot can be reflected upon and suggested in each instance. Obviously, this one is a good example. He's taking a picture of a horse, but because it has all the work gear on and the angle he's taking it from really shows that this horse, it really has to work hard. This is an image of a man that's unemployed, and again, because there's nothing except furniture, this story is already there. He's so good at taking these type of pictures. He was worried about propaganda. He made a concise effort in his images for them not to be used in propaganda. For instance, this image here, he's taken a picture. Obviously, this woman is poor. She's got a piece of cloth wrapped around her foot, but the way he's taken it is taking it in a very sympathetic. The other person there on the other side, another photographer, has taken it, but they obviously really are poor, and you can see by the way they're dressed. I believe some of his images have been staged to gain a better composition, but even though he didn't fake or mislead anybody by doing this, as the situation was real at the time. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Peter Marlow. He started his career in photojournalism. He was born in 1952 and died in February 2016. He was a British news photographer and a member of Magnum Photos, where he served as a president and as vice president in London. This is a famous iconic image of Margaret Thatcher that he took. He had a collection of portraits, and he covered news stories and street photography as well. It's a quite quirky picture of two presidents. Even though he was a journalist, he had issues with the conflict zones, and it made him question the ethics of his job, where he was working for Sigma, and then he decided to join Magnum, and in the 1980s he produced images, and he was able to have freedom to exercise his independent vision. He was known more for his personal projects. This is one is called Looking Out to Sea. It was made into a book, and it was often like Walker Evans. He was able to use a narrative even though there was absence of subject in the pictures. He was able to have an uncanny silence and show the point of crisis. He was able to spot little details as Evans. There's an unavoidable austerity about the images in Liverpool at the time, and the loss of livelihood in the community. Marlow spent 8 years from 1980 to 1990s in the declining city, and it remains one of the most influential testimonials to the human cost of the Thatcherite years, in contrast to the empowerment image that he took over at the beginning of my presentation. Like Evans, he's been able to show images that present historical potential, and he's also been able to use the signage the same as Walker Evans there. He was able to capture the stories and record people without even having people in it sometimes. Using his style of photography, he shows emotions, and with a story, he's just able to give a point across, as where Evans has done the same thing. This is quite a good comparison here with one of Walker Evans's images, where you've got the industry in the background, similar to the graveyard image, that is on top of the people. They're almost coming for them. And then this image here of Peter Marlow in Liverpool is again very similar in style, because it's a burnt out park, and it's just that these people are destroying themselves, and they are both black and white images, and both deal with the subjects in a very similar way. So thank you.